Hello, y'all. Don't we love when we are pleasantly surprised? This is the Lollipop Killer palette by Jeffree Star Cosmetics. This came out for his, I think, 15-year anniversary of his Beauty Killer album. I think that's what this had originally come out with. It come out with like a new liquid blush and two new liquid lipsticks. However, I feel like those were too pink and not gonna work great with my skin tone. So I actually ended up grabbing this palette a lot later. Just got this palette this year. It was part of a big kind of sale he was doing. When I got this palette, I also got the Gold-Blooded and Orgy palette for half off. So I got this palette for half off at $14. I'm not even sure if this is available on the website still, to be honest. It may not be. But I grabbed it because I was like, you know what? Like, I'll try it for $14. The color story didn't particularly persuade me, just because I already have, or at least I still have, I guess, the Pink Religion palette. And the Pink Religion palette is very much more of an MUA palette because there's so many shades of pink, and or someone who only wears pink shades and is a pink lover. That is, you know, that's who that palette is for. And actually ended up taking apart my Pink Religion palette and taking shades from that Jeffree's Purple Royal palette and putting it into some of those shades, and putting some of those shades into my Pink Religion palette to make it more of something that I would like. So for this, I was just like, Jeffree Star doing pink. Oh well, meh. Whatever. Like, this is, again, look, Lollipop Killer mini palette is what we see there on the side. And the reason I'm saying all this stuff is because a few days ago, I was looking up, I wanted to see what other people were saying or had said about this palette, because I obviously did not buy this palette when it came out. I bought this palette when it was half off. So I wanted to see how people were using it, what they were trying it with, and all the videos I watched, I think I was able to watch 4 or 5. And I don't know if it was just their swatching or the way they did their makeup, but they made it seem like it was, for some reason, the most powdery, unpigmented palette I'd ever seen, and I was like, girl, this is about to be a mess. As I've been showing you, this is the outside palette. Here's the actual palette. You have Jeffree Star holding a butcher knife over here. You see his eyes over here. And then here's the actual palette. It's him laying on a butcher knife with his long hair flowing down, almost looks like blood. And it says Lollipop Killer. And the texture is raised, so it gives it a little bit more of a 3D effect. It's pretty cool. And on the back, you have a little bit more information. I don't think there's any ingredients on this one, no. You'd find the ingredients on the back of the box. So, also here, just the little details. You've got that like shiny metallic-y paper all the way around. And then when we open it up, there is a mirror in here, per usual. But also there's like splatter. There's some splatter on the sides there of the mirror. But we're going to cover that up for now. And here is the mirror. I mean the palette. Here's the palette. We're covering up the mirror. And I think my camera might pick up on the colors perhaps a little better than those other videos that I watched. But I feel like you can see every color in here is pretty different. It's pretty different. I will say I only had one issue, which was kind of strange. But other than that, y'all, this palette, these shades are as pigmented as ever. I don't know what those other gals were doing, but I don't know, maybe I'm digging too hard into my palette? Like, I don't know, but those videos that I watched with these girlies putting on the makeup on their videos, I'm like, why is your makeup so light? Look how bright these colors are. These are very bright colors. We got that top row, and it's given very much like Easter realness. There's these pale pastels, and then we have these reds in the middle, which this one's more like the shade Watermelon Soda, this shade over here. We have an actual red and this kind of burgundy maroon shimmer shade. I also saw people having issues for some reason. Unfortunately, someone got this palette, and according to her, one of her shades had kind of hard panned for the shimmer shades, and there's only 2 in here. There's only 2 shimmer shades in here. So I'm like, well, that sucks. I'm like, is that what I'm gonna get? but it's not. Everything in here, like, the only real criticism I have of this is, but I feel like you know what you're getting. You can only do so many looks with this. Like, you're gonna pretty much just do a purple look with red. Like, that's what you do with this palette, because that's what your limitations are. It's a purple palette with red. That's your limitation on this. So that's the only real criticism, but that's like buying a green palette and saying, well, you can only make green looks with this. But I don't know. I'm just a little confused because the other videos made it seem like there was an issue with the formula or something. And maybe there was an issue with the ones that they got. It's absolutely like possible. Maybe they got even older versions of the palette. But I did not have any problems really. In fact, the first shade that I tried was this Hollywood Boulevard, and I could tell immediately. Like, this is how you know it's a really, really good shade. Because when I dipped my brush into Hollywood Boulevard, and I can feel how nice the shade feels, then you know you've got a really good color. So I'm going to swatch these top three, which I think Get Physical is probably my favorite of these the light three shades. And you can tell in the palette and on my fingers, these are all different colors. Okay. They're all different colors, and they're all different enough. There is a slight, like, these are within the same kind of level of tonality in terms of light and dark, but this one is a lot more purple, this one is a lot more pink. This is giving Barbie purple, and this is giving Barbie pink. So I thought that's really pretty. I was a little confused. So the red in here is good. I wonder what this red is like compared to the red Hot Cheeto from the Controversy palette. Is it Controversy? I have that palette, but I also don't have that palette because I took that palette apart. So I don't really know where that red lies. I think I actually tore the red from the Controversy palette and I put it into my cremated palette because I wanted a red for my goth palette. So I think that's where that red actually is. But, you know, it's a good red. It was a decent red. I was a little confused with Electric Sugar because for some reason, I think it was Electric Sugar. On my eye, Electric Sugar looked very much like Gorgeous Killer, even though they're two different colors, two different formulas. I don't know what kind of blending or witchcraft I did, but it looked so similar on my eye. It was a bit confusing. I was able to do a mixture and it looked so weird, but like, look at that red. This kind of metallic red. Here's that pink. Two different colors on my hand. Look very similar on my eye for some reason. And I feel like you can see it a little bit, but after blending all the shades together, it looked pretty similar. So that's really my only criticism, but that was just based more off the colors I was blending and some witchcraft I did where apparently the colors look the same. But do you see how pigmented these shades are? I haven't gone back in. Like, that's just the one swatch. I haven't gone back in. And then let's swatch, of course, Party Crusher. So these two are different formulas. You can see that this formula over here is a lot more crumbly, and the formula over here is a lot smoother and more metallic. But let's do Party Crusher. We got Party Crusher over here, and then Get Away with Murder. It's nice, pretty dark purple. I do like the breakup of kind of lighter, medium, and dark shades. I feel like that made it really easy to put something together. And then here is our Shiny Metallic, which again, it's almost like a shiny purpley brown, but it also has a little bit of red in there. Look how pigmented these shades are, y'all. Like, come on now. I don't know what those girls were doing. I mean, I might as well swatch the last two shades. I never ever do this. I never swatch a whole palette. Usually I'll just sit here and I'll swatch what shades I did not like, or I'll swatch what shades I did like. Sometimes I do both, and I'm gonna tell you, no, this shade didn't work out, here's the shades that didn't work out, but look how beautiful these other shades are. Everything in this palette is so pretty and pigmented, and I don't understand how those girls who were doing those looks didn't get some of the most intensely, brightly colored, like, super just pigmented eye looks. I think I will swatch that red a little bit more just to get a little bit more color right there. But otherwise, look how pigmented they are. They're so the usual good matte formula. This is kind of giving me, what do you guys think? Is it giving anti-Valentine's Day, or do you think it's giving like date night? I think maybe a little bit more date night, because it still has like these pretty pinks and purples. It's still very romance, not giving total anti-Valentine's Day, but this is definitely like Valentine's Day date night. Like later in the day, there's something almost summery, like spring into summery about these shades. Let's see how close I can get. I think these are so pretty, super pigmented. Like I said, I don't know how those other girls did their looks, making it look so powdery almost. And like, again, I don't want to dismiss them and say like, oh, it's their fault. It could have been the palette. Maybe they had a crappy palette. Thankfully though, it looks like I got a really good one. I liked the looks that I made. There is a note. Just before I forget, let's look at the back. There should be, let's see if any of them have like asterisks or something. Okay, I'm gonna have to look online. But it does say, oh, here we go. Pressed pigments include Hollywood Boulevard, Pink Knife, Get Physical, so the first three. Electric Sugar, Be Please, Gorgeous Killer, okay. Prisoner, Party Crusher, Get Away with Murder. Every shade in here is considered a pressed pigment, which makes sense, because here's what I'm going to tell you. After a couple hours, my left eye specifically did get a little itchy, and I figured, you know, this isn't specific to Jeffree Star, but with any pigment, if you put straight up pigment on your eye, which is why there's a warning on these, you can have an allergic reaction. So heads up, these are pigmented pigments, and it's not just, again, specifically Jeffree Star, it's for any palette with pigments. You can have a reaction to them, and my left eye did get a little bit itchy after several hours later in the night wearing this palette. So heads up, if you are super sensitive to pigments or eyeshadows, makeup on your eyes, perhaps this isn't the makeup palette for you, but otherwise this was beautiful. I was totally ready. Once I saw those videos, I'm like, y'all, this is about to be a mess. This is about to be a shitty Jeffree Star palette, and that's probably why it ended up, you know, on sale. But I really think that a lot of people like me were not persuaded with the color story. I think it's a very Jeffree Star color story, but a color story we've kind of seen before and have pieces of in other palettes. This almost feels like Weirdo's, the Weirdo palette's girly pop sister. Like, you have some of the deeper shades, but it's definitely a lot more pink and purple. I like it. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it. I think this is for someone who's trying to have a very bright and fun Valentine's Day. That's what I see when I'm looking at this palette. That's what I really like. I think for the last palette that I tried was the Betty Boop palette, and the Betty Boop palette definitely 100% felt like a very pretty romantic Valentine's Day palette. This feels like almost a more kind of darker, grungier punk, like just very like in your face and bright kind of palette. I'm keeping this palette. I'm happy again. My version is really good. I love to know your thoughts below. Do you have this palette, and what are we thinking? I think it's a Valentine's Day date night palette.